I was wiping down the kitchen counter at 11:43 on December 28th when I heard my wife say the thing that ended our marriage. Not ended it, actually. Murdered it. With planning and malice aforethought, as they say in courtrooms. The house was finally quiet after Lauren's little pre-New Year gathering with her PR people. 8 colleagues from the cosmetic surgery clinic where she works, all of them drinking wine that cost more than my work boots and pretending I didn't exist while I cleaned up their mess. I'm Daniel Holt, 42, facilities manager at Regional Medical. That's the polite way of saying I keep a hospital running. Pipes, cameras, badge readers, the stuff nobody thinks about until it breaks. Lauren calls it janitor work. She said that to Marcy 2 weeks ago in our driveway, thinking I was in the garage. He jiggles toilets for a living, she said, and they both laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. I was supposed to be upstairs. I'd said goodnight, made a show of yawning, let her think I was headed to bed like the tired old husband I'm supposed to be. But I came back down for my phone charger, and that's when I heard Jack's voice in the hallway near the stairs. Jack is 17, my son. Sharp kid, good at basketball, terrible at lying. "But what about Grandma?" he whispered. His voice cracked on the word. "I mean Nora, we can't just dump her." My mother. He was talking about my mother. Lauren's voice came back, low and sharp. "We'll send her to the nursing home after New Year. He'll just accept it. He always does." I stood there with my hand on the counter, fingers pressed into the granite we'd picked out together 10 years ago. Back when we still used the word, we like it meant something. "And you'll tell him after?" Jack asked. He sounded nervous, trying to sound older than he was. "Like after you move in with Evan?" The wine glass in my hand could have shattered. Should have. But I just stood there, perfectly still, while my wife's entire plan unfolded in whispered exposition in my own hallway. She was leaving. She had somewhere to go. Some surgeon named Evan, probably one of the pretty boy orthopedists at her clinic, who thought a medical degree made you God. She was going to dump my mother in a home, take my son, and paint me as the sad, angry leftover who couldn't handle it. And I was supposed to just accept it. I set the wine glass down without a sound and walked back upstairs. Not to our bedroom, to the guest room. I pulled my old duffel bag from the closet and started packing. Not because I was leaving, because I needed Lauren to think I might. Panic is leverage. My old supervisor at the hospital taught me that. If people think you're about to quit during a crisis, suddenly they remember what you're worth. I packed slowly. 3 shirts, jeans, my good jacket, deodorant, the electric razor she'd bought me for Christmas 3 years ago that I'd never used because it gave me a rash, but she'd be insulted if she saw I'd left it behind. I left the bag half-zipped on the guest bed where Lauren would see it in the morning. Then I went back downstairs and pretended to sleep on the couch. The house settled around me. Old wood creaking. I could hear Lauren upstairs, water running, her feet on the hardwood above my head. I wondered if she was texting Evan right now, telling him about poor pathetic Daniel sleeping on the couch like a kicked dog. She came home at 1 in the morning. I heard her heels on the hardwood, heard her pause when she saw me on the couch. She didn't say anything, just went upstairs. I waited until I heard the shower run, then I got up and went to the kitchen. Her tablet was on the counter. She'd left it unlocked, screen glowing with the brightness turned all the way up the way she always did, because she refused to admit she needed reading glasses. I'm not a hacker. I didn't need to be. The tablet opened right to her photo gallery. Hotel bathroom selfies. Lauren in a white robe that wasn't ours, leaning into some guy with an expensive haircut and teeth so white they probably glowed in the dark. Dr. Evan Pike, I assumed. He had his hand on her waist and she had that smile she used to give me, back when we were 25 and stupid with love. I scrolled. More photos. Dinner receipts from restaurants I'd never been to. Screenshots of apartment listings downtown, all of them with floor-to-ceiling windows and amenities I couldn't pronounce. And then I found the one that made my hands shake. Jack, my son, sitting at a table with them, a beer bottle in front of him, his face flushed, grinning like an idiot. Lauren and Dr. Perfect on either side of him, like some kind of twisted family portrait. The photo was dated November 14th, almost 2 months ago. She'd let our underage kid hang out with her affair partner, let him drink, let him think this was normal. I took a photo of the screen with my phone, not to use in court, not yet, just to remember exactly how angry I should be when the moment came to burn their world down. I put the tablet back exactly where I'd found it and went back to the couch. I didn't sleep, just lay there in the dark, listening to the house breathe, planning. While you're here, hit the hype button, don't forget to subscribe, and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? I confronted Jack the next morning. Not about the cheating, about safety. He was eating cereal at the kitchen table, still half asleep, scrolling through his phone with that glazed expression teenagers get when they're looking at nothing in particular. I sat down across from him and waited until he looked up. You drinking with some 36-year-old surgeon? I asked. Kept my voice flat, calm. Jack's spoon stopped halfway to his mouth. His face went red, then white, then red again. Dad, don't lie to me. I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo. You, your mother, and Dr. Ken Doll. Tell me what's happening. He set the spoon down, pushed the bowl away. His hands were shaking. It was just once, he said. Mum said it was fine. That we were just having dinner. With beer. It was just one beer. He said it was European, that it's normal there for kids to drink with meals. And you believed him? Jack looked down at the table. I don't know. Mom was there. I thought it was okay. I leaned back in my chair and studied my son. He had Lauren's eyes, my jawline, and the kind of confused expression kids get when they realize their parents aren't who they thought they were. Tell me the rest, I said. He folded fast. Kids always do when you don't yell. It all came out. How Lauren and her best friend Marcy had been planning this for weeks. How they were going to stage a scene right after New Year, where I supposedly lunged at Lauren and she had to leave for her safety. How Jack was supposed to back up her story, say he felt scared, say I'd been acting strange. She's been practicing, Jack said. His voice was shaking. Her and Marcy. They rehearse in the car. The crying, the shaky voice, all of it. I was in the back seat once when they were doing it. They thought I had my headphones in, but I heard everything. What exactly did you hear? Marcy was telling her to think about something that makes her sad, to make her eyes water, and Mum kept saying the same lines over and over. He grabbed my arm so hard it left marks. I was terrified. I had to protect Jack. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not surprise, just confirmation. Did she tell you where she's going? Evan's condo, the one downtown with the parking garage and the gym. She showed me pictures. It's really nice, Dad. Way nicer than here. Of course it was. She said you'd just accept it, Jack continued, that you always roll over, that you'd be sad for a while, and then you'd move on, and we could all be adults about it. I thought about that for a long time, about every argument we'd had where I'd backed down because I thought marriage meant compromise. Every time I'd bitten my tongue when she mocked my job, or forgot to ask about my day, or told her friends I was low maintenance, which was code for boring. Jack, I said carefully, you're not leaving this house with her. His eyes went wide. You can't stop her. Watch me. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe I'd been the tired guy on the couch for so long he forgot I used to be something else. What did Mom tell you about Grandma Nora? I asked. Jack shifted in his seat. She said we need to move her into assisted living, that it's not fair to keep expecting you to take care of her when she needs professional help. When did she say this? Last week. She said we'd do it after New Year. That Grandma wouldn't remember anyway because of the dementia. My mother doesn't have dementia. She has mild memory issues from a medication interaction 2 years ago that got resolved, but Lauren's been calling it dementia ever since because it sounds more official, more like a reason to shuffle her off somewhere cheap and forget about her. Anything else? Jack hesitated. Then, she said Evan has a financial advisor who can help us. That we'll be better off once everything's settled. Once everything's settled. Translation. Once she's bled me dry in divorce court and moved into her new life, with a surgeon's salary backing her up. Dad, what are you going to do? I stood up and put my coffee mug in the sink, rinsed it out, watched the brown water swirl down the drain. I'm taking away her future, I said. Then I'm going home. I went to work that night, December 29th, graveyard shift at the hospital. My world, badge-locked corridors, camera feeds, the steady rumble of the boiler room 2 floors down. Down here, I'm not the janitor with a mortgage. I'm the guy who keeps 300 beds running. The night shift is different from day. Quieter, darker, honest. No administrators wandering around pretending to inspect things. No doctors treating support staff like furniture. Just the people who actually do the work, keeping sick people alive while the rest of the world sleeps. Ronell Green was in the security office when I got there, feet up on the desk, watching 6 monitors at once. He's 50, built like a fire hydrant, and the only person at the hospital who doesn't treat me like furniture. He used to work corrections before he retired and picked up this gig for the health insurance. You look like hell, he said without looking away from the screens. Marriage. Say no more, he grinned. What do you need? I told him. Not everything, just enough. I told him my wife was leaving and her boyfriend was a surgeon at a private clinic, and I needed to know if there were any pressure points. Ronell leaned back in his chair and thought about it. On the monitors behind him, I could see the empty hallways, the nurse's station on 3 West, the loading dock where a supply truck was backing in. Surgeons are brands, he said finally. They live on reputation. You bruise that, they bleed money. What's this guy's specialty? Orthopedics, sports medicine. He does videos on social media about athletic recovery and training. Ronell pulled up a browser on his computer and typed for a minute. Dr. Evan Pike. How'd you know? Because there's only 3 sports orthopedists in this city who do the social media thing, and 2 of them are women. He turned the monitor so I could see. This your guy? The screen showed Evan's professional website, headshots that probably cost $500, testimonials from local athletes I vaguely recognized, a video of him doing a consultation with a college basketball player, all warm smiles and competent hand gestures. That's him. Clinics called Elite Recovery Center, high-end cosmetic and sports medicine. They store equipment in a warehouse off Route 9. We lease space in the same building for surplus gurneys. Why does that matter? Ronell gave me a look. Because storage costs money and nobody watches it close. If someone filed a complaint about storage violations, or if equipment went missing, the clinic would have to do an internal audit. And audits are hell for doctors, especially the pretty ones who cut corners. I thought about that, about Evan Pike with his white teeth and his expensive car and his hands on my wife. What kind of corners? Could be anything. Double billing insurance for equipment they only bought once, storing stuff off-site to hide it from tax assessors, using expired machines. I don't know specifics about this guy, but I know the type. How do you know so much about this? Ronell shrugged. My sister's a surgical nurse. She tells me things. Also, I watch a lot of true crime. I laughed despite myself. What are you planning, Daniel? I don't know yet. Don't do anything stupid. Define stupid. Anything that ends with you in jail or on the news. I thought about that. About Lauren and Evan thinking they were so smart, so untouchable. About my mother getting shoved into a nursing home. About Jack being coached to lie to police. I'll try, I said. Ronell didn't look convinced. December 30th. I staged the suitcase scene. I left my packed duffel in the hallway where Lauren would trip over it, then I pretended to fall asleep on the couch. I knew she'd come home late. She always did now. Errands, she called it. Errands that left her hair wet and her clothes smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. She'd stopped being subtle weeks ago. Maybe months. I'd lost count of the evenings where she returned with that faint, satisfied glow. The kind that doesn't come from running errands or standing in checkout lines. The kind that used to be mine to give her. She came in around 10. I heard her stop in the hallway, heard her pick up the suitcase, set it down, pick it up again like she was testing its weight, trying to figure out if I was serious. She didn't speak at first. The silence between us had been growing for so long that it almost felt natural, comfortable even, a shared language of absence. But that night, the air in the house was thick, waiting for something to break. Daniel. Her voice was low, cautious. Not angry yet, just testing the ground. I didn't move. Daniel, I know you're awake. I opened my eyes slowly, like I'd been dragged out of sleep, sat up, looked at her standing there in the dim light from the hallway fixture that's been flickering for 3 months because I haven't had the energy to replace it. That flickering bulb felt like the perfect metaphor for us. Sputtering, half alive, just bright enough to show how broken things had become. She was wearing the black sweater I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. The one she said she loved. The one I later found out cost $70 on clearance at Macy's, and she'd told her friends I was cheap for not spending more. I used to think she was joking when she said things like that. Now I know she wasn't. That sweater clung to her, soft and familiar, but the woman wearing it wasn't mine anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. If you're leaving tonight, she said, leave the ring too. I'm done begging you to act like a man. That was the line. The one I'd been waiting for. The one that told me she'd already decided I was the villain in her story. She'd been building up to it, I think, rehearsing it in her head during her drives home from wherever she went with him. Maybe she'd even practiced it in front of a mirror, trying to get the tone right, firm, detached, wounded but resolute. It sounded rehearsed, and she wanted it to hurt. I stood up, slowly. I'm not tall, not imposing, just a guy with a soft gut and weekend back pain. But I walked toward her, and I didn't stop until she took a step back. You and Evan are finished by January 2nd, I said quietly. You just don't know it yet. Her face changed, just for a second. Fear, maybe, or recognition that the man she'd been married to for 19 years wasn't rolling over this time. Who told you? She asked, and there it was, the crack in her voice that betrayed her. Nobody had to tell me. She blinked, jaw tightening. You went through my phone again. I didn't have to. You're drunk. I haven't had a drink in 3 days. Then you're insane. No, I said, my voice steady. I'm done being nice. She tried to step past me. I didn't touch her. Didn't need to. I just stood there and let her see, maybe for the first time ever, that I could be something other than tired. That the man she'd been eroding piece by piece might still have some edges left. She turned and went upstairs. I heard her bedroom door close. Heard her on the phone, voice muffled but urgent. The words were indistinct, but the tone was clear. Panic. I sat back down on the couch and smiled at the ceiling. Let her panic. Let her call Evan and tell him I'm acting crazy. Let them think I'm spiraling. Meanwhile, I'd start taking apart their world piece by piece. It wasn't about revenge, not exactly. It was about balance, about making her feel the weight of what she'd done, the small humiliations, the slow corrosion of trust, the way she'd looked at me lately, like I was something she couldn't wait to scrape off her shoe. I'd loved her once. God help me, I still did in some strange, twisted way. But love isn't blind. Not anymore. It's just a kind of witness to what used to be. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. 10:37 p.m. The same clock we'd bought when we moved in, back when we still talked about paint colors and backyard barbecues and maybe getting a dog. I remembered how she'd laughed when we hung it slightly crooked, and I told her it gave the place character. She used to laugh easily. Now every sound she made upstairs, every step, every drawer opening, felt like part of a countdown. I thought about Evan, the man whose cologne now lived in my house. I'd seen his name on her phone once, months ago, under Erin from book club. I'd known then, but I'd let it slide. I'd wanted to believe it was innocent. That was my first mistake, thinking Lauren capable of innocence anymore. I went to the hallway, picked up the suitcase and unzipped it halfway. My clothes were folded neatly inside, shirts, socks, shaving kit, a toothbrush and a plastic case. I'd packed it the way you do when you're not sure whether you'll actually go through with leaving. Not chaotic, not impulsive, just careful. Like I wanted her to see that I'd thought it through. I set it back down and stared at it for a long time. Leaving would be simple, staying would be war. When I finally turned off the flickering light and lay down again, the house felt different, not quieter, just heavier, as if it knew what was coming. Lauren didn't come downstairs again that night, but I didn't sleep. I lay there, watching the shadows shift across the ceiling, thinking about how we'd gotten here. 19 years, half our lives. We'd built routines that felt like comfort until they turned into cages. Sunday coffee, same mugs every time. Grocery runs on Thursdays. The way she always double-checked the front door lock, even though I'd just done it. All those little habits that used to mean partnership now felt like surveillance, like she didn't trust me to handle even the smallest things. Maybe she never did. I thought back to the first time I met her. A college party, 20 years ago. She'd been wearing a red dress that looked like trouble and smiled like she knew it. I was awkward, quiet, the guy who held his drink too long and waited for conversations to end before daring to start one. She chose me anyway. Or maybe I was just convenient. Back then, I thought she was electric. I thought she made me better. Turns out she just made me quieter, easier to manage. Somewhere along the way, my opinion stopped being asked for, my jokes stopped landing, my name stopped meaning husband and started meaning obligation. By the time the clock hit midnight, I'd made my decision. I wasn't leaving. Not yet. Lauren and Evan thought they were clever, careful. They weren't. I knew his schedule. I knew where he parked his car when he met her. The same coffee shop every Friday, like clockwork. They thought nobody noticed. But I did. I'd been watching long enough to map their habits. I wasn't planning violence. I wasn't stupid. But there are other ways to break a person. Ways that don't leave bruises. Ways that make them question their own grip on reality. By January 2nd, Evan would be wondering what went wrong. His business deals would start unraveling, emails going missing, calls unanswered. His careful little world would start to splinter, and Lauren would be right there in the middle of it, realizing too late that she'd chosen the wrong man to betray. I'd already started setting things in motion. A few messages sent from anonymous accounts. A few rumors seeded in the right places. A quiet conversation with one of Evan's partners at the firm. Nothing overt, just a suggestion that maybe Evan wasn't as trustworthy as he seemed. I'd always been the quiet one, the unassuming husband. People underestimate quiet men. They think silence means weakness. It doesn't. It means you're listening, waiting, collecting every detail until the right moment comes. Around 2 a.m., I finally got up and walked to the window. The street outside was empty, the world washed pale under the thin winter moon. I could see Lauren's car parked in the driveway, still dusted with road salt from her errands. Upstairs, her light was still on. I pictured her pacing, whispering into her phone, trying to convince Evan that everything was fine, that I was harmless. I smiled again. Harmless. She'd find out soon enough. Not because I wanted to hurt her. No, because I wanted her to understand what it felt like to live with doubt, pressing against your ribs every waking hour. To wonder what's true, what's safe, who's watching. The same way I had for months. By morning, I'd have breakfast ready. I'd make her coffee just the way she liked it. 2 sugars, no cream. I'd kiss her cheek when she came down, act like nothing happened. Because that's how you dismantle someone's certainty, not with rage, but with calm, with patience, with precision. Let her think she won. Let her think I'd surrendered. Because while she was out there building her new life with Evan, I'd be quietly rewriting the ending to ours. By January 2nd, she'd wish I'd just taken the suitcase and left. December 31st, New Year's Eve morning. I followed Evan Pike to a coffee shop, not with some GPS tracker or spy equipment. I just drove to the fancy cafe near Lauren's clinic at 8 in the morning and waited. Rich people are predictable. They go to the same places, order the same drinks, park in the same spots. Evan showed up at 8:20 in a silver Audi that probably cost more than my annual salary. He was wearing gym clothes that looked like they'd never seen a gym, and sunglasses even though the sky was overcast and grey. I waited in my truck, watched him go inside, watched him come out 5 minutes later with a coffee cup the size of a soup bowl and his phone pressed to his ear. I got out and walked toward his car. He saw me and stopped. The phone lowered. Even behind the sunglasses, I could see his expression change. "Dr. Pike," I said, loud enough for the 2 college girls at the patio table to hear. "Daniel Holt, Lauren's husband. I wanted to thank you." He looked around, checking for witnesses. There were plenty. "Thank me for what?" "For mentoring my son in advanced drinking, and for sleeping with my wife while supervising her clinic's PR campaigns. Really setting a great example for the youth." The college girls stopped talking. One of them pulled out her phone. Evan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You need to leave." "Or what? You'll put me in a psych hold." I smiled. "Yeah, Lauren told Jack you threatened that. 1 phone call, right? Because you're a doctor, and I'm just the guy who fixes toilets." "I never said that." "But you thought it. I can see it in your face." He set his coffee on the hood of his car, squared his shoulders, trying to look intimidating in his $70 athleisure and designer sneakers. "You're harassing me," he said. "I'm thanking you. Big difference." I leaned in closer, close enough to smell his cologne, something expensive and cloying. "Stay away from my kid. Stay away from my wife's bank accounts. Because next time I talk this loud, I'll be talking to that booster club you film videos for. The one with the 19-year-old athletes. I'll tell them all about how you buy beer for 17-year-olds in hotel rooms." His face went pale. Actually pale. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Then I slapped him. Open hand, right across the face. Hard enough to snap his head to the side and knock his sunglasses off. The college girls gasped. One of them definitely got it on video. "Good." Evan stumbled back against his car, hand on his cheek, staring at me like I'd just materialized from another dimension. "You're insane," he hissed. "No, I'm just done being nice." I picked up his coffee from the hood and handed it to him. "Careful, it's hot." I turned and walked back to my truck. He shouted something about lawyers and assault charges, but I didn't care. I'd already won. He'd been humiliated in public, in daylight by the janitor with a mortgage, and everyone saw. I drove away and checked my rearview mirror. Evan was standing by his car, holding his cheek, talking on his phone, probably calling Lauren, probably telling her I was dangerous. Perfect. New Year's Eve afternoon. I followed Lauren. No high-tech surveillance. Just me and my truck, 3 cars back, watching her pull into a Target parking lot where Marcy was waiting in her white SUV with the real estate company magnet on the door. Marcy Kindler, Lauren's best friend since college, Pilates addict, real estate agent, walking rumor mill. She's the kind of woman who remembers everyone's business and forgets her own humanity. She'd been at our wedding, held Lauren's hand in the delivery room when Jack was born, smiled at me over Christmas dinner for 19 straight years, while probably thinking I wasn't good enough for her friend. They sat in Marcy's car for 20 minutes. I couldn't hear them, but I could see them. See Lauren's hands moving, animated, angry. See Marcy nodding, patting her arm, playing the supportive friend. Then they started practicing. I'm not kidding, they practiced crying. Lauren would tilt her head back, dab at her eyes with her fingers, then check herself in the rearview mirror. Marcy gave notes like a director. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the coaching, the adjustments, the repetition. I watched my wife rehearse being a victim in a Target parking lot on New Year's Eve, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger anymore. Something worse. Clarity. They weren't just leaving. They were erasing me, turning me into a monster so nobody would question why she left or where she went or how much money she took. Marcy's window was cracked, just a little. Enough for me to hear her voice drift across the parking lot when a woman walked by too close, and they stopped for a moment. Don't forget the account, Marcy said. Transfer what you can tonight while he's asleep. Then they can't say you stole it later. You were just protecting yourself. Money. Of course. This wasn't just about Evan. This was about making sure she landed soft. Lauren said something I couldn't hear. Marcy laughed. Then they hugged and Lauren got out of the car. I watched her drive away, watched Marcy sit there for another minute, checking her phone, probably texting other friends about poor Lauren and her unstable husband. I started my truck and followed Lauren home. Kept my distance. Thought about what came next. Midnight, New Year. Lauren tried to run her script. Came into the living room where I was sitting in the dark. Tried to look scared. Tried to make Jack witness something that would stick. Jack was on the stairs, watching. He'd come down when he heard Lauren's car in the driveway, stood there in his basketball shorts and old t-shirt, looking younger than 17. You've been acting unstable, Lauren said, loud enough for Jack to hear. Her voice had that practiced tremble in it, the one she'd been rehearsing. I don't feel safe. I stood up, calm, turned on the lamp. The sudden light made her squint. Show him the bruise, I said. She froze. The one you're going to tell the police I gave you. Show him. What are you talking about? The bruise, Lauren. The one from when I grabbed your arm so hard it left marks. Where is it? She didn't move. Couldn't. Because there was no bruise. There was never going to be a bruise. Just a story. Jack came down the stairs slowly. Mom. Jack, go to your room, she snapped. Show him, I repeated. Roll up your sleeves. Show him the marks I supposedly left. This is insane. No, this is you getting caught. Her face twisted. She lunged for my phone, thinking I'd recorded something, thinking I had evidence she needed to destroy. Her nails caught my wrist and we struggled. Not Hollywood violent, just messy and desperate. She was clawing at my hands and I was trying to push her away without hurting her, and Jack was shouting for us to stop, and then blue lights flashed through the living room window. Lauren stepped back, breathing hard, hair in her face. She looked at the window, then at me. You called them? She asked. No, I said. You did. Or Marcy did. Doesn't matter. 2 officers at the door. Young guy, maybe 25, with a fresh haircut and pressed uniform. Older woman, 40-something, with tired eyes, and the look of someone who'd seen this exact scene 1,000 times. They separated us immediately. Professional and calm. No drama. This was just another domestic dispute on New Year's Eve. The woman officer took Lauren to the kitchen. The man stayed with me in the living room. Anyone hurt? He asked. No, sir. What happened tonight? My wife and I are getting divorced. Things got heated. I'm going to stay at my mother's place tonight to cool off. He looked at me for a long time, probably trying to decide if I was the problem or if this was just 2 people who'd stopped liking each other. You don't have to leave, he said. I know, but I want to. Easier that way. He nodded, made a note on a small pad. What's your mother's address? I gave it to him. He wrote it down. In the kitchen I could hear Lauren talking. Her voice was different, softer, trembling. She was performing now, telling the female officer she didn't feel safe, that I'd been acting strange, that she was worried about what I might do. The officer came back 5 minutes later. "Your wife says you've been threatening her." "I haven't threatened anyone. She says you told her you'd ruin her life." "I said I'd ruin her boyfriend's life. There's a difference." His eyebrow went up. "Boyfriend? She's having an affair with a surgeon from her clinic. His name is Evan Pike. They've been planning this for weeks. The whole unstable husband thing is just a story so she can leave without looking like the bad guy. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Ask my son. He heard them planning it." The officer looked at Jack, who was sitting on the bottom stair, head in his hands. "Son," the officer said, "you want to tell me what's going on?" Jack looked up. His eyes were red. "My mum's leaving. She's going to live with Evan. She told me last week." The officer looked back at me. "You willing to leave voluntarily tonight?" "Yes, sir. Already said I would." "All right. Pack a bag. We'll wait here until you're gone, just to make sure everyone stays calm." I packed my real suitcase this time, the one with my actual clothes. Toothbrush, deodorant, phone charger. Took my time. When I came back downstairs, Lauren was in the living room with the female officer, wiping her eyes with a tissue. She'd been crying. Real tears, probably. She was good at making herself cry. I'd seen her do it at her father's funeral, at sad movies, at parent-teacher conferences when Jack was struggling in math. She could cry on command. The officers watched me carry my suitcase to the truck. The young one followed me out. "You got somewhere safe to stay?" he asked. "My mother's apartment. It's 10 minutes from here." "All right. We're filing this as a wellness check. No charges, no arrests. Just keep your distance for a few days. Let everyone cool off." "I will, thank you, officer." He nodded and went back inside. I sat in my truck for a minute. Watched the officers leave, watched the lights in the house, saw Lauren's silhouette in the living room window, phone to her ear. Calling Evan, probably. Telling him I'd finally snapped, that the plan was working. I started the truck and drove to my mother's apartment. My mother lives in a small one-bedroom, in a building that smells like old carpet and pine sol. She's 68, on a fixed income, too proud to ask for help. The kind of woman who will starve before admitting she's hungry, who will wear a sweater with holes before saying she's cold. I pay her rent most months without telling Lauren. Money I skim from my paycheck before it hits our joint account. A few hundred here, a few hundred there. She thinks it disappears into coffee runs or oil changes. Lauren never checks the statements closely anyway. Too busy spending on spa appointments and business lunches that don't involve business. Mum's building sits at the end of a cracked street, lined with old maples that have lost most of their bark. The kind of place where mailboxes tilt, where the lights buzz and hum in the hallway, where the walls remember every argument, every slammed door. The carpet used to be red. Now it's some indefinable brownish grey, worn flat in the middle from decades of tenants walking the same tired path. The smell never leaves, cleaner, mildew, and time. But it's safe. She calls it her little fortress. I call it the place that reminds me what loyalty is supposed to look like. I let myself in with the key she gave me 5 years ago, after the first time she fell in the kitchen, and didn't tell me until 2 days later. Said she didn't want to bother me. She always says that. I told her I wanted to check in now and then, maybe help around the place. She pretended to be annoyed, but when she handed me the spare key, her hand lingered. She wanted to be looked after, even if she'd never say it. She was asleep on the couch, television playing some late-night talk show with the volume too high. The laugh track was blaring, filling the little apartment like forced cheerfulness. I turned it off, and she woke up immediately. Her hearing's not great, but she senses presence like a mother always does. "Daniel?" "Hey, Mom. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you." She sat up, blinking, confused. Her grey hair was matted on one side, her robe hanging open at the collar. What are you doing here? What time is it? Little after 1, I said, glancing at the old wall clock above her television. Its second hand jumped unevenly, stuck every few ticks like it was gasping for energy. Lauren and I had a fight. I'm going to crash here for a few days if that's okay. Of course it's okay. She stood up, wavering a little. Her balance has been off since the medication thing, the dizzy spells, the fall last winter. She hates the word fragile, but it hangs around her like a shadow now. You want some tea? I can make tea. No, Mom. Go back to bed. I'll take the couch. There's sheets in the closet, and pillows. I know. Go to bed. She hesitated, then smiled that small, weary smile that always breaks something in me. All right, sweetheart. She kissed my forehead like I was 10 years old again, her lips cool and dry, and shuffled off to her bedroom. I heard the door close, heard the creak of her mattress, the old spring sighing beneath her. I made up the couch with the faded blue sheets she keeps folded in the linen closet. They smelled faintly of detergent and thyme. The cushions sank beneath me when I sat down, and I could feel the dip in the middle where she spends most evenings. I lay down in the dark, listening to the building breathe. Somewhere upstairs, a television murmured through the ceiling. Down the hall, someone coughed. Pipes clanked behind the walls like old bones shifting in their sleep. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence between those sounds. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the cracks in the plaster, the faint shadows from the street lamp outside. It reminded me of when I was a kid, when Mom and I shared a one-room apartment after Dad died. She worked nights back then, cleaning offices, emptying trash bins, mopping the floors of people who never learned her name. I used to wait up for her, fighting sleep until I heard her key in the lock. She'd always smile, even when she was too tired to stand straight. Now she was here, small and fragile, and I was the one standing guard. I thought about Lauren in our house that was apparently just her house now. The warm kitchen light, the smell of the lavender candles she pretended helped her distress. I pictured her lying in our bed, phone glowing in her hand, Evan Pike's name lighting up the screen. I imagined the way she'd whisper to him, careful not to wake anyone, not realizing I'd already stopped sleeping weeks ago. Evan Pike. His name felt like metal in my mouth. I'd seen his photo once, tall, clean-cut, expensive hair. The kind of guy who uses the word partner like it means something more than a business title. Perfect teeth, expensive shoes, the easy charm of a man who's never had to try too hard. I bet he doesn't know what it's like to scrape together rent for his mother. Doesn't know what it's like to measure love by endurance instead of novelty. I thought about Jack, 12 years old, too smart for his own good, caught in the middle and not even realizing it yet. Lauren used him like a prop in her performance of motherhood, soccer games, school recitals, the whole show. But at home she was a ghost, always too busy, too distracted. She wanted Jack to admire her, not to love her. I was the one who helped him with homework, who remembered which teacher he liked and which one made him nervous. I wondered what he'd think when this all came apart, whether he'd believe me or her, whether I'd even get the chance to explain. And then I thought about my mother, the woman who'd raised me alone after my father died, who'd worked 2 jobs to keep me in decent schools, who'd never asked for anything except maybe a phone call once a week. She'd taken buses in the snow, skipped meals so I could have second-hand textbooks that weren't falling apart. Every time I tried to repay her, she'd wave it off like gratitude embarrassed her. "You're my boy," she'd say. "You don't owe me anything." But I did. I owed her everything. Lauren never understood that. To her, my mother was a burden, a loose end that needed to be tied up, filed away. She shouldn't be living alone, she'd said more than once, in that tone that made alone sound like inconvenient. What she meant was she didn't want the responsibility. She didn't want reminders of where I came from. She wanted to put her in a home. A community, she called it, with amenities. I'd seen the brochures, Bright smiles, fake greenery, a cafeteria that looked like a waiting room. Lauren had handed them to me one night over dinner, like she was offering a solution to an algebra problem. I remember staring at the glossy photos, the staged happiness, and thinking how easily she erased people when they no longer served a purpose. She wanted to forget about my mother, erase her like she was erasing me. That's when something cold started forming inside me, something patient. It wasn't rage. Rage burns out too fast. This was quieter, steadier, a slow tightening of resolve. I pulled out my phone and started making notes. The glow lit the room, throwing long shadows on the walls. I opened the Notes app and stared at the blank screen for a long moment before typing, January plan. Underneath, I started listing things, names, dates, patterns, a map of everything Lauren thought I didn't see. Evan Pike, marketing firm, office on 5th, drives grey Audi, license ending 427, gym Mondays and Thursdays, same time as Lauren's Pilates, check camera near Bay and Main parking lot. Lauren, passwords, joint account, email, iCloud. Reset attempts, track spending trail, find point of overlap with Pike. Jack, school pickup schedule, no disruptions, shield him from fallout. And then, farther down, one word, Mom. Not as a target, as a reason. She deserved better than this. Better than watching her son dissolve under someone else's betrayal. Better than worrying whether her rent was paid each month. I thought about how Lauren used to laugh when I told her I sent money. You're enabling her, she'd say. She needs to learn to manage her life. As if Mom hadn't been managing her life alone since before Lauren learned how to spell mortgage. The clock on the wall ticked past 2. I could hear my mother's soft snores through the door, steady and human. I envied that peace. I used to think sleep meant safety. Now it just meant surrender. I scrolled through my phone, through old photos. Lauren and me, on our anniversary trip to Maine, Jack's first soccer trophy, Mom smiling with her paper cup of coffee at Thanksgiving. There was a time those pictures told a story about love and endurance. Now they looked like evidence. I started another note. Phase 1, reclamation. It wasn't about hurting anyone. It was about reclaiming what was mine, my time, my dignity, the truth. People like Lauren and Evan build their lives on illusions. You don't destroy illusions with violence. You destroy them with truth, quietly, surgically. I remembered something my mother once said when I was a teenager, after she caught me lying about where I'd been. She'd looked me straight in the eye and said, "You can fool everyone, Danny, but you can't live inside a lie forever. Eventually it collapses, and it takes you with it." Lauren was about to learn that. I put the phone down and closed my eyes. The room was still, the kind of stillness that feels like the world is holding its breath. For the first time in months, I felt calm. Not happy, not hopeful, just calm. Like I'd stepped out of the current and could finally see where the river led. Outside, snow had started falling, faint flakes drifting past the window. I could see them under the streetlight, tiny, fragile things that vanished as soon as they touched the ground. For a moment, I thought about getting up, opening the window, letting the cold air in. But I didn't move. I just watched the snow and the shadows it made on the wall and listened to my mother breathing on the other side of the door. Somewhere far away, my phone buzzed. A message from Lauren, probably. Maybe a warning, maybe an apology. I didn't check. I let it vibrate until it went silent again. Tomorrow, I'd start putting things in motion, quietly, carefully, piece by piece. For now, I just lay there in the dark, listening to the heartbeat of the building, the echo of my mother's kindness, and the soft hum of plans beginning to take shape. January 1st, afternoon. I called the HR department at Lauren's clinic, not pretending to be anyone, just asked a question. "Hi, this is Daniel Holt. My wife works in PR there. Lauren Holt. I had a question about the equipment storage situation. Are we still using that warehouse off Route 9? Confused pause. I'm sorry, who are you with? Facilities coordination, just trying to confirm the inventory transfer for the new year. I'll have to check with management about that. What transfer? The one for Dr. Pike's recovery equipment, physical therapy machines, ultrasound units, that sort of thing. I thought we were moving it to the main building. Long silence. I don't have any record of a transfer. Oh. I let my voice sound concerned. That's strange. Someone should probably look into that before the quarterly audit. Equipment stored off-site has to be documented for insurance purposes. I'll make a note of it. Great. Thanks for your help. I hung up. 5 minutes later, I bought a burner phone from a convenience store and texted Evan. HR is auditing the warehouse. Might want to check if your machine survived the water main. There was no water main, no damage, but Evan didn't know that. I sat in my truck outside a diner and waited. 20 minutes later, my real phone buzzed. Ronell. Your doctor friend just called the warehouse landlord in a panic, he said. Asked about water damage and inspections. Thought you'd want to know. Thanks, Ronell. You're playing with fire, Daniel. I know. Don't get burned. I drove to the warehouse. It was in an industrial park off the highway. Grey concrete building, loading docks, chain-link fence. The kind of place that looks abandoned but isn't. I parked in the lot, waited. The sun was setting, cold and orange through the trees. January light, the kind that makes everything look tired. Evan's Audi pulled in at 6:30. I got out of my truck and leaned against the hood. Waiting. He saw me and stopped, car still running. I could see his face through the windshield, pale and tight. Then he got out. What did you do? He demanded. Nothing. Yet. I pushed off the truck. But I know everything. The hotel, Jack drinking with you, the money Lauren's planning to move, the script she practiced with Marcy about me being unstable. All of it. You're insane. No, I'm methodical. I walked toward him, slowly. You're sleeping with a married woman you supervise. You socialized with my underage son while drinking. You're planning to help her hide marital assets. And you market yourself as trusted by elite athletes. I smiled. That's cute. You can't prove any of that. I have photos. I have Jack's testimony. I have Marcy on camera practicing fake tears with Lauren in a parking lot. I have you on video getting slapped in public this morning. How's your cheek, by the way? He touched his face. The mark was still there, faint but visible. You hit me. I slapped you. There's a difference. He tried to hit me then, telegraphed it like he'd learned to punch from YouTube. I stepped left and his fist went past my ear, and then I shoved him hard. He stumbled back into a stack of folded tables, and they crashed over with a sound like thunder in the empty warehouse. We fought, if you can call it that. Two middle-aged men, out of breath, nothing graceful about it. He got me once in the lip. Then I drove him backward and slammed him against his car, hard enough to dent the door. My ribs hurt. My knuckles hurt. Everything hurt. This wasn't a movie fight. This was ugly and desperate and real. I grabbed his collar and pulled him close. If you touch my kid again, I said into his ear, I walk into your clinic at 10 in the morning and ask every woman in the waiting room if she slept with you, loud. Then I hand your TikTok interns that hotel photo with Jack's beer in the frame. I ruin you. Understand? He was shaking, breathing hard. Lauren told me you're not even on the house deed anymore. She moved you off last summer. I let him go. What? The house. It's hers. She refinanced. You signed it over. I stepped back. Tried to remember. Last summer. Papers. Something about debt consolidation, she'd said. I'd been exhausted from a double shift and I'd just signed where she told me to sign. You're lying. Check the county records. I looked at him, at his smug, bleeding face, at the warehouse full of equipment he probably overcharged for, at the car that cost more than my truck and my mother's medical bills combined. Then I picked up a tire iron from my truck bed and smashed his driver's side mirror. It exploded in a spray of glass and plastic. I dragged the iron along the entire driver's side, metal screeching on metal. Evan just stood there, watching, too scared to move. "Stay away from my family," I said. I got in my truck and drove away. I checked the county property records that night on my mother's laptop. He wasn't lying. Lauren had refinanced, put the house in her name only. I'd signed the paperwork thinking it was some kind of credit improvement thing, some way to lower our interest rate. She told me it was just paperwork, that it didn't mean anything. She'd been erasing me for months. I sat there staring at the screen, at our address with only her name on it, and something inside me finished breaking. This wasn't about marriage anymore. This wasn't even about revenge. This was about making sure that when she tried to erase me, she went down too. I opened a notebook and started making a list. Everything I knew, everything I could prove, everything I could use. The hotel photos, Jack's testimony about the drinking, the practiced crying session, the money transfers, Evan's professional reputation, Lauren's carefully constructed image as the perfect PR director. Everyone has pressure points. You just have to find them and push. January 2nd, morning. I walked into Lauren's clinic at 9:30. Business hours, public space. I wasn't trespassing. The waiting room had 6 people in it, 2 women flipping through magazines, a man with a bandage on his nose, an older couple sitting close together. The receptionist looked up, smiled automatically. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Lauren Holt. I'm her husband." The smile flickered. "Let me page her." Lauren appeared in the hallway 30 seconds later. Saw me. Her face went white. "Daniel, you can't be here." "Why not? It's a public clinic." I turned to the waiting room, voice calm and pleasant. "I just wanted to thank my wife for coaching our 17-year-old son on how to lie to police about me bruising her when there were no marks." The room went silent. 6 pairs of eyes locked on me. I also wanted to congratulate her on moving in with Dr. Pike before the divorce is final, and for teaching Jack that if you rehearse the tears first, people believe anything. Daniel. Oh, and for introducing our underage son to her boyfriend over drinks at a hotel. That was really responsible parenting. The receptionist's mouth was open. The older woman had her hand over her heart. The man with the bandage was grinning, like this was the best show he'd seen all year. Lauren grabbed my arm and dragged me into the hallway. Her nails dug into my skin hard enough to leave marks. Ironic, considering. "You son of a—" She stopped herself, took a breath. "You're deranged. I'm filing a restraining order." I leaned in close enough to smell her perfume, the expensive one she wore to impress other people. "Do it," I said quietly. "I'll bring Jack. He'll tell the judge about the script you and Marcy practiced in her car, about the fake crying, about the fake bruise story. He'll tell them everything." Her face changed. The anger drained out and left something close to panic. "Jack wouldn't. He already has. To me, and he'll do it again in court if you make me." I walked out, left her standing there in her perfect clinic, with her perfect image cracking in front of everyone. I sat in my truck and waited. My phone buzzed. Text from Jack. "Mum just called. She's freaking out. What did you do?" "Told the truth." "She says you're trying to ruin her." "No, I'm trying to stop her from ruining me." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Can I come stay with you and Grandma?" I stared at the screen, read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't imagining it. "Yes. I'll get my stuff after school. I'll pick you up." I picked Jack up at 3:30. He was waiting by the gym with a duffel bag and his backpack. He threw them in the truck bed and climbed in without saying anything. We drove in silence for 10 minutes. Past the school, past the turnoff to our house, past the coffee shop where I'd slapped Evan yesterday. "Mum called me 6 times today," Jack said finally. "What did she say?" That you're having a breakdown, that you're dangerous, that I need to come home. What did you tell her? That I'm staying with you and Grandma for a while. I glanced at him. His jaw was set. He looked older than 17, older than he should have to. You don't have to do this, I said. Yeah, I do. Why? Because she was going to make me lie, and I'm not doing that. We pulled up to my mother's building. Jack grabbed his bags and followed me inside. My mother was making soup when we walked in. She turned, saw Jack, smiled. Well, hello, sweetheart. What are you doing here? Staying for a few days, Grandma, if that's okay. Of course it's okay. You can have the bed. Your father and I will fight over the couch. I'll take the couch, Jack said. We'll figure it out, I said. Mum, you keep your bed. We ate soup at the tiny kitchen table. My mother asked about school. Jack told her about basketball. We pretended everything was normal. Later, after my mother went to bed, Jack and I sat in the living room. Television on low. Some old movie neither of us was watching. What are you going to do? Jack asked. I'm going to make sure your mother can't use you against me. And I'm going to make sure Evan Pike never works with teenage athletes again. How? By telling the truth, publicly, where it matters. Dad, I'm not asking you to be involved. You've done enough by choosing to stay here. He was quiet for a long time. Then, she's really going to hate you. She already does. No, I mean really hate you. Like, destroy your life, hate you. Let her try. January 2nd. Late afternoon. I went to Marcy's open house. She was showing a split level in a development near the highway. 3 potential buyers wandering through. Marcy in her real estate blazer with her fake smile and her business cards fanned out on the kitchen counter. I walked in like I belonged there. Smiled at the young couple looking at the master bedroom. Nodded at the older man inspecting the water heater. Marcy, I said. Loud. Clear. Daniel Holt, Lauren's husband. I wanted to thank you. She froze. The smile went plastic. Daniel, this isn't a good time. Thank you for coaching my wife on how to pull cash out of our shared account while pretending to be scared. And for helping her hide assets before filing for divorce. The couple in the bedroom appeared in the doorway, staring. And thank you, I continued, for practicing fake crying with her in your car. My 17-year-old son heard you. From the back seat, he heard everything. The voice coaching, the sad thoughts exercise, all of it. Marcy's face went red, then white. You need to leave. I'm leaving. I walked to the door, paused, turned back. By the way, your friend is about to lose everything. Her job, her boyfriend, her son. Might want to distance yourself before you go down with her. I left her standing there. I could see it in her face. Nobody wants to buy a house from someone involved in that kind of drama. My phone buzzed before I even made it to my truck. Text from Lauren. What the hell did you do to Marcy? I didn't answer. Another text. You're a monster. I smiled. Typed back. No, I'm just done losing. It was storming that night. Sleet, not snow. The kind of weather that makes roads slick and dangerous and turns parking lots into skating rinks. I was at my mother's apartment when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? You need to stop. Evan's voice, tight with fear. What you're doing. You need to stop. Or what? Or I'll file harassment charges. I'll get a restraining order. I'll tell everyone you're stalking us. Us. That's cute. You and Lauren are an us now. We're together. And you need to accept that. I do accept it. I accept that you're sleeping with a married woman. I accept that you bought alcohol for a minor. I accept that you're helping her hide marital assets. I accept all of it. Silence on the line. What do you want? He asked finally. I want you to leave my son alone, forever. No contact, no messages. If you see him on the street, you cross to the other side. Fine. And I want you to know that if you try to paint me as unstable, I will bury you. I will make sure every parent of every teenage athlete you've ever worked with knows about Jack, about the hotel, about the drinking. I will end your career. You can't prove any of that. I have photos, I have testimony, I have enough to make people ask questions, and questions are poison for someone like you. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone. Jack was asleep on the couch. My mother was asleep in her room. The building was quiet except for the sleet hitting the windows. My phone buzzed again. Text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Lauren. I'm coming over. We need to talk." I looked at the time. 8:30. "No." "Then I'm calling the police. I'll tell them you kidnapped Jack. He's 17 and he chose to come here. That's not kidnapping." "We'll see what they say." I thought about it, about the police showing up here again, about my mother getting scared, about Jack being pulled back into Lauren's world. "Fine, but not here. Meet me at Evan's place. 30 minutes. Long pause. Then, "Why there?" "Because I'm done talking in private. Everything from now on happens where there are witnesses." I drove to Evan's condo building, high-rise downtown, glass and steel and a doorman, who probably made more than I did. The parking garage was underground, fluorescent lights and concrete pillars, and the echo of car doors slamming. Lauren's car was already there. She was standing by the elevator, arms crossed, when I pulled in. Evan was with her. Of course he was. They looked united, a team. I parked and got out, slowly, took my time, let them wait. "You wanted to talk," I said. "You're destroying my life," Lauren said. Her voice was shaking, but I couldn't tell if it was real or performed. "You humiliated me at work. You went after Marcy. You're poisoning Jack against me." "I haven't done anything to Jack. He made his own choice." "Because you manipulated him." "No, because he heard you practicing lies and realized you were going to use him as a prop." Evan stepped forward, trying to be protective. "You need to leave her alone." "Or what?" "Or we go to court. We file for custody. We tell the judge you're unbalanced and dangerous." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "Do it, please. Because when you do, Jack will testify about the hotel, about the drinking, about the rehearsed crying, and then everyone will know what you are." "What am I?" Lauren asked. Her voice was cold now, hard. "A liar, a cheat, a woman who was willing to destroy her husband to avoid looking like the villain." She came at me then, not calculated, not performed, just rage, fists hitting my chest, my shoulders, my arms, messy and desperate and loud. I didn't hit back, just stood there and let her hit me, while Evan tried to pull her away, and security cameras in the corners recorded everything. She stumbled, almost fell on the wet concrete, caught herself on Evan's car, hair plastered to her face, mascara running, gasping. "I hate you," she said. "I know." I walked to Evan's SUV, took my keys out, dragged them across the hood in one long, deep scratch, metal on metal, loud in the concrete space, the paint peeled away in a thin line, primer showing underneath. Evan made a sound like he'd been punched. I looked up at the nearest security camera, smiled. "You said I'd walk out of my own life with a suitcase," I said. "I'm not the one leaving." I got in my truck, started the engine, looked at them one last time through the windshield. Lauren on her knees on the concrete, sobbing, Evan staring at his ruined car, both of them wrecked. I drove away. My phone buzzed as I pulled onto the street. Text from Jack. "Where are you?" "On my way home." "Is it over?" I thought about that. About Lauren and Evan standing in that garage. About their perfect plan falling apart. About Jack choosing me over her polished lies. "Yeah," I typed back. "It's over." I drove through the sleet toward my mother's apartment. The wipers beat back and forth. The city light smeared across the wet windshield. My hands hurt. My ribs hurt. My lip was split from where Evan had hit me in the warehouse. But I wasn't the one crying on a parking garage floor. I pulled into my mother's lot, turned off the engine, sat there for a minute. Tomorrow I'd file for temporary custody. Tomorrow I'd start divorce proceedings. Tomorrow I'd make sure every social media platform and athletic booster club in the city knew about Dr. Evan Pike's questionable judgment with minors. Tomorrow I'd start rebuilding. But tonight, I just needed to go inside and make sure my son was okay. I got out of the truck. The sleet had turned to rain. I walked to the building, key in hand, and let myself in. Jack was waiting in the hallway. "You okay, Dad?" "Yeah, I'm okay." He hugged me, tight, like he was afraid I might disappear. "Is Mom going to be okay?" he asked. I thought about that, about Lauren and her perfect PR career, and her perfect surgeon boyfriend, and her perfect plan that had exploded in her face. "Eventually," I said, "but not tonight." We went inside. My mother had left the television on, some old western with the volume low. Jack went to the couch. I went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. My phone buzzed. Text from Renelle. "Just saw some interesting police scanner traffic about vandalism at a downtown condo. That you?" "Maybe." "Good for you." I put the phone down and drank the water, looked out the kitchen window at the rain and the parking lot and the lights from other apartments where other people were living their own complicated lives. I wasn't the hero of this story. I'd slapped a man in public. I'd vandalized property. I'd humiliated my wife in front of her colleagues and friends. I'd used my own son's guilt as leverage. But I wasn't the villain either. I was just a man who'd finally stopped accepting what other people told him to accept. And that was enough.